Okay, I have to get this off my chest. Hello everyone, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. I make videos to inspire you to be the star of your own life. We're gonna talk about Sydney Sweeney and her new lingerie line. Sydney Sweeney released a lingerie line that I believe is pronounced Syrn, although it's spelled S-Y-R-N. So she's not beating the stereotype that blondes with boobs are dumb because apparently she can't spell. I don't think Syrn is a bad name for a lingerie line. I don't like the alternate spelling. I mean, again, that's just branding. I don't know who made the decision. I'm not going to put that all on her. Although she is trying to sell herself. Like, she did an interview where she was like, I'm a lot smarter than people think I am. And, you know, look, I get why she might want to be presenting herself as somebody who's more than just, you know, blonde hair and boobs and whatever, and I understand that. But if you are going to sell yourself that you're smarter and that you're in on this and you know what's going on, and she's also the face of this stuff, then whether or not she's the one pulling the puppet strings and making the decisions, she's the one that's going to take the brunt of this criticism. So I do think that's an important lesson for women to understand, that I understand women want to be like, we're strong, we're powerful, we're independent, we're intelligent, and, you know, great, more power to you. That said, if you are handing over the decisions of your image and everything to somebody else, and you're insisting that you're smart, independent, intelligent, you're the one making the decisions and stuff, you can't turn around later and be like, well, somebody else was the one that was making the decisions, because you're presenting yourself as the one who's in charge. I don't really believe that Sydney Sweeney is fully in charge of what she's doing. She might be a part of the decision-making process. I don't know how much of it, but I do believe that there's probably a lot more powerful men that are at the helm of this. We do know Jeff Bezos is backing a lot of Sydney Sweeney's career. I'm sure he's probably not the only one. I actually have been getting some criticism lately. A few people have commented this, not a lot, but a couple people have brought this up, that they feel like I'm harder on women lately. And look, I still blame men for the majority of our problems in the world. And I do absolutely believe that most of the issues we have with women could be changed if men just stepped up and fixed themselves. But I do also get to a point where I realize that no matter how many times I tell men to fix themselves, they're not going to do it unless they want to. And, you know, maybe I have been calling out women more often, although I still have a lot of videos where I'm calling out men a lot. But I have had a few videos lately where I have been calling out women. And here's the thing, I am generally easier on women than I am on men. But I do believe in calling out women who are showing up in a way that I believe is harmful to other women. And I will continue to call that out, because I care about, I care about men's health and safety, but I don't think that coddling them or babying them or, you know, feeding into their victim complex is the answer to that. But I want women to thrive, and I want women to be better and do better, and I want women to be safe and healthy. And if I believe that there is a woman who's a celebrity or public figure who's doing something that I believe is harmful to women, then I'm gonna call them out. That's why I'm very hard on, you know, Kylie Jenner and Kim Kardashian, and I'm gonna be hard on Sydney Sweeney. Because I don't like when women are showing up in society and doing things that I believe are harmful to women. Now, I do believe that in most of these cases of these female celebrities, there are men behind the scenes pulling the puppet strings. And I would go after these men, but I don't know who most of them are. I also understand that as long as women are willing to feed into what these powerful men are doing, as long as women will show up and go along with it, it's not going to change. You know, we're not going to change the men unless we as women step up and insist on better. You know, that's why I have been hard on women, I guess, lately, but I'm only hard on women who I firmly believe are harmful to other women. And look, I think I take the Sydney Sweeney lingerie line thing maybe more personally than a lot of people, because for those of you that don't know, if you haven't been following me for that long, I was originally a beauty blogger on social media, but I did go through a phase primarily on my Instagram, a little bit here on YouTube, where I was promoting lingerie brands, primarily full-busted lingerie brands, which for those of you that aren't in that world, full-busted means that there is a dramatic difference in the band size and the cup size. So that means narrow band, fuller cup. I forget the exact measurements as far as the difference is what distinguishes it as full busted, but it's very difficult for people to buy full busted bras. They're very rare, especially the bigger the cup size you go, the less common it is. In fact, my own bra size doesn't even exist in US brands. I have to buy like UK brands, and there's conversion sizes and a lot of it's really complicated, and this isn't the video for it. But anyway, if you've been following me for a while, then you know this, but if you don't, I did go through a social media phase where I did a lot of lingerie brand reviews for fuller busted brands. There was a time, and this was kind of like pre-2020, where there were more full busted brands than ever, and it was just amazing. And I was very lucky to have people send me samples that I could promote, and I wish I made more money off of them, but I didn't really make any money doing that, but I did get gifted a lot so I could review things for you, and a lot of people found it very helpful, and I was really glad to be a part of it. Unfortunately, a lot of those brands didn't last through COVID and the dip in the economy, and also the obsession with skinny and all this kind of stuff. And so it breaks my heart that so many of these brands aren't in existence anymore, or they've cut back and they've scaled back. I mean, that just breaks my heart. From a personal perspective, and again, one of the things that this Sydney Sweeney lingerie brand reminds me of that I have a serious problem with is the idea that we're fine with women's bodies and showing off women's bodies, even in a sexual way, if there are men in big corporations that can profit off of it. But we're not okay with women expressing their bodies and their sexuality their own way, especially if these women might be profiting off of it. I say this personally because as an actual full-busted woman, not Sydney Sweeney who's cosplaying as full-busted, but like as an actual full-busted woman, I have a video on YouTube where I review sports bras, which is something that I feel very passionate about because at the end of the day, I believe in health and fitness and being active, and women with actual full busts do have a lot of challenges with staying active. And I made the video reviewing the sports bras, which I believe has been demonetized. It's still on YouTube, but it was demonetized. They took my thumbnail off, which wasn't even an offensive thumbnail, got censored, blah, 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 whatever. And the #1 comment on the video, I mean, I did get a few like kind of creepy dudes, whatever, that's to be expected, but the #1 comment that I got was typically from mothers of teenage girls who were telling me how helpful my video was because their teenage daughters were really self-conscious about gym class because they had fuller busts, and they were really, you know, grateful that they could find bras that their teenage daughters could wear so they could feel more comfortable in gym class, which I am unbelievably grateful that I could help in that way. I also don't make any money off of that. And in fact, in most cases, I was gifted a few of the bras that I mentioned in the video, but I did pay my own money for some of them, and I don't get to make any money off of that because it got demonetized because my body and my chest size is deemed as like too offensive for social media. However, Sydney Sweeney can promote her lingerie brand, and not just her, but Victoria's Secret can promote their lingerie brand, and all these big corporations can promote their lingerie brands. They're making money off of it. They're making a profit. They're probably monetized on social media, but it doesn't really matter because they're making tons of money because they have corporations that are funded by men, and the men are making a lot of money off of it. I mean, the models and the women, and I'm probably Sydney Sweeney and stuff like that, they're probably making money as well too, but their bodies aren't censored because a woman who actually is showing up in her actual real natural body who happens to be busty, we're deemed as offensive. But yet if a corporation is run by a man and making a lot of money, they can show off women's bodies as much as they want, as uncensored as they want. Doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, we can accept women's sexuality, or not even just sexuality, but just a woman's body, if a man is profiting off of it. But if a woman is just showing up fully expressed in her body or her sexuality or sensuality or whatever, that's got to get shut down, because God forbid she make any money off of that or profit off of that in any way, or even be allowed to express it. Like, that's where one of my issues is with this Sydney Sweeney lingerie brand, and I would say honestly any of these lingerie brands, I mean Victoria's Secret or anything like that. It's just another reminder that we can show off cleavage and all this kind of stuff in like a beer commercial or like a Super Bowl commercial or something like that, but like we're still offended by women like breastfeeding in public. You know, I mean, again, it's another reminder that women's bodies are acceptable to sexualize if men can profit off of it, but not if it's a genuine sexual expression. Which goes into the whole thing about Sydney Sweeney, and look, I don't believe that anything about Sydney Sweeney is authentic. It's just my read of the situation. Maybe you read it differently, but I don't read her as being authentic. And I am all for women showing up in their authentic sexual expression. I think more women need to show up in the world and really embrace their own sensuality, sexuality, and I don't mean like exploiting it for men, but I mean like actually learning to embody their own sensuality, their own sexuality, and like owning it for ourselves. I'm all for that. My issue with like a Sydney Sweeney is I don't believe anything she's doing is authentic. You know, it doesn't seem like she's not showing up as her authentic self. Nothing about her lingerie brand to me seems authentic. It's not that it's ugly or unattractive or anything. It just doesn't feel authentic. And again, it just feels like another layer of, okay, here's another woman who is just showing up and showing off her body. You know, she's profiting, but there's probably a lot of men that are profiting off it even more. And again, that's my issue with it. Like, I don't care if a woman wants to express her sexuality. I don't care if a woman wants to embrace her body and own her sexual expression. I'm all for that. I want it to be authentic. I want more women to show up in their own authentic self-expression, including their sexual expression. I'm just getting tired of female sexuality being exploited for male profit, which is usually what happens when we're talking about the male gaze, which I went into this in my last video about Sydney Sweeney, and I was talking a little bit about male gaze, female gaze. You know, we were talking about her American Eagle ad versus Beyonce's Levi's ad and things like that. I dive into that more in my last video about Sydney Sweeney. And one of the interesting things about the whole Sydney Sweeney conversation is the idea that women really don't like her. I mean, there are some women that do, obviously, but she's not marketed to women. She's really marketed to men. And I will acknowledge that it is difficult, and it can be a difficult line to dance with a female celebrity to be sexy for men but also have an appeal for women. There can be a delicate balance there. However, it's possible to pull that off. Like, a lot of female celebrities have pulled that off in the past. I mean, I do think we could factor in, you know, the current time period with, you know, where we are with social media compared to where we've been in the past, and also the current political climate. And I do think those things are a factor, but not as much a factor as just like our general natural instincts. Like, it doesn't really line up that women dislike Sydney Sweeney just because they're like jealous that, you know, men think she's sexy, or jealous that she's so attractive or anything like that. Like, it doesn't really line up because there have been plenty of female celebrities in the past who have been very sexy, very attractive, appealed to men, but also had a female audience as well. So we know it's possible. So clearly that's just not what they're going for with the Sydney Sweeney. And I don't really know if that's like an intentional move, or if maybe she's just being mishandled, or what. Like, I got to thinking back on, like, if you go back to say like Pam Anderson in her Baywatch days and her Playboy days was absolutely marketed to men. Like, absolutely. But there wasn't this like massive outrage that women just didn't like her. Again, it was a different time period, I realized. However, you know, Pam was able to show up, and I mean, I always loved Pam. I think, you know, some of it was, you know, her personality. She was also very girly, so women could relate to that. I think she also, you know, had kind of turbulent relationships with men, which a lot of women could identify with. Like, she was very much able to appeal to a female audience, even though she was distinctly being marketed to a male audience. Sofia Vergara, she's a lot bustier and a lot more attractive, arguably, than Sydney Sweeney. Men find her very sexy, rightfully so, but, you know, she appeals to women as well. I think that the most distinct comparison that I can think of is, you know, when people act as if, oh, women just don't like Sydney Sweeney because she's so attractive and men find her attractive, so they're just jealous. I don't ever remember this kind of hate and pushback for Kate Upton. I mean, and Kate Upton, arguably bustier, and her face card far beyond Sydney Sweeney. I'm just gonna say it. I don't like doing the weird comparison with women, but like Kate Upton, arguably more attractive than a Sydney Sweeney. And she was not getting this kind of hate and pushback. Again, I do realize that some of this is where we are with social media, some of it's the political climate, but I don't feel like I ever heard a bad word about Kate Upton in her career. She was very much marketed to men, but like, I would see her in women's magazines and things like that. I mean, she was a model, so she didn't do a lot of talking. I think she did do some acting roles, but like, you never heard anybody say a bad word about her. She was an attractive girl, didn't stir up a lot of controversy, but she was famous, she's popular, men lusted after her. And I'm sure there probably were some women that maybe were jealous or didn't like her for other reasons or whatever, but like, it didn't really seem like you heard anyone badmouth her. Like, and there wasn't this like deep anger towards her or anything like that. So the Sydney Sweeney thing is deeper than that. It's not just a matter of because men find her attractive, women don't like her. I think that that's how she's being marketed, and maybe that's on purpose. I don't know. Or if maybe that's just the way it worked out, or maybe that's just the current political climate that we're in, where people are kind of trying to figure out what side she's on. And personally, I think she's trying to play both sides, which I think is what a lot of celebrities are trying to do. I do think that Sydney Sweeney and her people around her could have played their cards right, so she wouldn't necessarily have to have become this very polarizing figure. So I don't know if this is intentional or not, but it didn't have to be that way. And I think it's also a sign that this isn't just as simple as men find her attractive and men are lusting after her, so women just don't like her. Because again, there's been plenty of women in the past that men have lusted after that have been very sexy to men. And the fact that we live in a world, and again, I don't like doing the comparisons with women, but like, we're talking about celebrities and public figures, and we're talking about media image. The fact that you have men who are going around calling Margot Robbie mid, which I really do believe was solely because she did the Barbie movie that men deemed to be anti-man, which I watched the movie. I wasn't in love with the Barbie movie or anything, but like, it wasn't really anti-man. But men lusted after her when she was in Wolf of Wall Street, when she was Harley Quinn, but then she does a movie that's like deemed to be feminist, and guys are like, she's just mid. Well, face card wise alone, Margot Robbie's a lot more attractive than Sydney Sweeney. And again, I don't like playing the comparison game, but I think it's important to point that out, that at the end of the day, men are intrigued by Sydney Sweeney because she's clearly pandering to them. And I think that the target audience that they're going for with Sydney Sweeney is not just the male audience that likes that she's being pandered to them. I think they're going for the male audience that likes that women don't like her, because these men really despise women. Because there are men out there who are attracted to a woman, a female celebrity, whatever, and she has a male and a female audience, and it doesn't bother them. They don't care that women like her. It doesn't matter, because these men don't have a deep hatred of women, so they find her attractive. But if a woman happens to also be a fan of hers, it's not a problem, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of women out there that are fans of Megan Fox. I mean, I have a video about Megan Fox, and I think it's heartbreaking what she's done to her body and her looks and her everything, but I think a lot of women find Megan Fox very relatable. I don't think Megan Fox is getting a lot of hatred. She's definitely not off-putting in the way that like a Sydney Sweeney has been off-putting, but I don't think the fact that women like Megan Fox made men like Megan Fox less. She still had a male appeal. But I think the Sydney Sweeney audience is going for the male audience that wants to follow the woman that women don't like, because it's feeding into their dislike of women and their idea that, well, if women like her, then there must be something wrong with her. I think it's why some of these guys turned on Margot Robbie. It's like that audience. Like the guys that liked Margot Robbie when she was doing roles that pandered to men, but then when she did the Barbie movie, which was a movie that was more for women, all of a sudden they turned on her. She's mid, she's not that attractive, she's boring looking, which is completely untrue. But at the end of the day, this was a certain group of men that needed a woman that felt anti-woman. They wanted a woman that incited anger in women because they hate women so much. And I think that's the audience that Sydney Sweeney's people are going for. I mean, maybe it's not intentional, but I would think that she would have a strong enough team around her that would know this is what's going on. They're trying to fill that void, so they're intentionally marketing her to be unappealing to women, to appeal to the men that hate women. I mean, I feel like that's gotta be what they're doing, because there's really no other explanation. Because it's not like Sydney Sweeney is so distinctly more attractive than any other female celebrity that we've ever had, or any other female sex symbol. So the fact that she is inciting this anger in women, and people can argue it's politics or whatever, but I think that's probably part of the angle they're using. Because there have been other women in the past that, you know, on different sides of the political spectrum, and this, I mean, even Pam Anderson is, I mean, you know, she's got her animal rights, so most people believe she was on the left, but she's said some things that were somewhat anti-feminist over the years that could, you know, make people believe that she might be a little bit more to the right. I mean, she's played both sides, and we don't hate Pam for it. You know, some people might, but she is an older and different generation, so it's a little bit different. But I just think that the Sydney Sweeney thing's gotta be strategic. Like, it has to be that they're actually intentionally doing this so that women have a problem with her, because they want to appeal to the audience of men that only wants a female that other women have a problem with, because it's feeding into their dislike of women. Because there's plenty of women out there, again, plenty of very attractive women that men find attractive, but that women still like them as a celebrity or are still fans of theirs. So yeah, this has to be intentional. Going back to Sydney Sweeney and her lingerie line. Okay, this might be a controversial hot take that a lot of people aren't gonna wanna hear, but I have to say this because I have to get this out of my system. Sydney Sweeney does not have a large chest. She doesn't. Sydney Sweeney's chest size is as average comes. I know a lot of people are already triggered by me saying this, but hear me out, okay? I understand if you have a smaller chest, you're not gonna wanna hear this. But at the end of the day, her chest size is average. Now, before you start claiming body shaming and blah, 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 there is nothing wrong with having an average chest size. There is nothing wrong with having a below average chest size. There's nothing wrong with having an above average chest size. Your chest size is your chest size. As women, we need to stop making this chest size conversation into a right or wrong thing. However, Sydney Sweeney's chest size is average. It's average to the point of like, it's ridiculous that we're calling her big. I did some research here for those of you that want to argue with me. I looked up the average bra size in the US. It's commonly cited as 34D to 36DD. This is Google. So as of right now in the United States, the average bra size is a 34DD to triple D. And the US size is a little bit higher than the average, which I find ironic because if you actually want to buy fuller bust sizes like my size, I have to go to the UK because the US doesn't even sell my size. So anyway, now, when you Google Sydney Sweeney's bra size, apparently she has not said what her official bra size is now, but there is no way she's bigger than a double D. If you want to maybe argue she's a triple D, maybe. I don't see it, and I'll explain why in a minute. But it says here that her bra line loves to brag that it has 44 size ranges from a 30B to a 42 triple D, which doesn't impress me at all. At all. Because that's literally all within a very average size range. It's average. The whole thing is average. If you can walk into a mainstream store, like in a mall outlet store, and buy your bra size, you're average. I hate to break it to you. Labeling Sydney Sweeney as having a large chest is not good, and I'm gonna get into the reasons why, but we need to stop saying that. I'm gonna call Sydney Sweeney average sized a lot probably, and if that triggers you, look. I want to be empathetic to women's body image issues. I do, across the board. I do want to point out though that as a large busted woman, I have sat and listened to and read comments and heard complaints of very, very small chested women and how insecure they were and had to hold space for them, but have never once had a small chested woman hold space for the issues that a large chested woman has to deal with. All I ever get is, must be a nice problem to have. Interesting how I can hold space for you and your issues, all while dealing with chronic back pain and a neck hump and shoulder dents, chiropractic bills, and going into debt having to buy bras, while you're just complaining that you don't feel like you're sexy enough. I mean, I know that's not a popular opinion to have, and again, I think that women being made to feel bad about their bodies across the board is a bad thing. But I also do get tired sometimes of having to hold space for women complaining about a problem that I've never had because I've never been small, ever. I've always had to deal with the consequences of having a large chest, and I can understand that women with different body types have different issues. But it is interesting how women with large chests deal with the majority of the problems because the rest of you can buy bras anywhere. You don't have to deal with the back pain. You don't have to deal with the extra expense of the bras and things like that. But yet we're expected to hold space to feel bad for you. Again, I know people don't want to hear this, but Sydney Sweeney has an average sized chest. Again, there's nothing wrong with having an average sized chest, but her chest size is average. It is absolutely 1000% average. It is not big. It is average. Here's how I know this. For one, she either has them or doesn't have them depending on the outfit she's wearing, depending on whether she's in a movie or in a red carpet. If your chest is actually large, you don't get to pick and choose when you have them. Okay, you don't get to pick and choose when you show them off and when you don't. When they're actually big, if you try to cover them up, you just get accused of being fat. That's all it is. You know, I mean, like, there's no in between. And I've seen like still shots. I didn't watch anything where she's been nude, and I didn't really want to search for Sydney Sweeney nude scenes or anything. But like, again, she did on the red carpet wear like a see-through kind of thing, whatever. Like, she's very average. She is. And when we see her on red carpets where she looks big, that is pushed and stuffed and tucked and pushed up to make it look like she's bigger than she is. Because even if you go to like her lingerie brand like TikTok account and they have videos of her like posing in her bras, I'm not saying she looks bad, but she doesn't look big. Like, she does not look busty. She looks literally average size. Like, she is not a full busted girl. She has a very average size for a girl her size. Like, it is not big whatsoever. I think some of it is because we are so programmed to the like super skinny, like Hollywood star, that anybody that isn't super skinny and super like flat chested gets deemed as being big, which has a lot of consequences that I'll get into in a minute. Another reason why I know Sydney Sweeney's chest size is average and it is not big is because we're not having the fat conversation around her. She's not being accused of being fat. I'm not saying she should be, but if Sydney Sweeney actually was big anything, because a celebrity that is big anywhere gets the fat conversation, she gets the plus size accusations. Nobody's doing that with Sydney Sweeney. She absolutely would if her chest was actually large. It's average. Kim Kardashian, when she first got famous, was seen as being plus sized just because she didn't look like the straight up and down stick figure that Paris Hilton was. Kim Kardashian's never been plus sized. Christina Hendricks, people used to think of her as being the plus sized actress. She wasn't plus sized. She was just busty and she was curvy. Sydney Sweeney is not getting that same conversation. And if her chest was larger than average, she would absolutely be getting accusations of being fat. People would be saying that she should lose weight, or they would be like, oh my God, she's so brave for showing up in a bigger body. Like, that would be part of the conversation. It's not part of the conversation. So she is average. Again, I'm not saying that any of this body shaming should be going on, because we shouldn't be doing this stuff. However, we need to get some perspective here. I'm gonna put on my little conspiracy theory hat here, and I'm going to explain to you why Sydney Sweeney's whole brand, including her lingerie brand, I believe is propaganda. I think it's probably propaganda for a few different things, but I think it's specifically propaganda for big pharma and the medical industry. Here's the thing. There's been a lot of conversations around breast implant illness and things like that. A lot of people were getting their breast implants taken out. A lot fewer women were getting breast implants. We also have a lot of other weight loss drugs and things like that that are coming out. All of a sudden, coincidentally, Sydney Sweeney is popular. Sydney Sweeney, whose chest size is average. Again, it is not wrong to be average. It's not bad to be average, but it's average. If you sell her to the public as having a large chest size, the first reaction you're probably gonna get is, oh my God, big chests are back. So you're gonna get women who are smaller than her that are gonna start rushing to the plastic surgeon to get their breast implants again, either back again or to get new ones. And that's gonna make a lot of money for the plastic surgery community. Because if you just have kind of like the skinny girl thing that was getting to be trendy, and you don't add in the boob thing, then you're not gonna get as many breast implants. And I really do think that this is a boost on the medical community, right? For more women to get breast implants. And if they get breast implant illness, well, then they just have to have more treatments. Women are gonna find it more important to have the implants than to be healthy. On the flip side, by calling Sydney Sweeney's chest large when it is actually average, what you do is you make her like the poster child for full busted women. Even though she's not full busted, she is average size. In the same way that a lot of plus size girls that had bigger butts and hips look to Kim Kardashian as their poster girl. But at the end of the day, Kim Kardashian was never plus size in the same way Sydney Sweeney is not really full busted. She's average. Then you get girls like girls that are my size or, you know, around that size, like girls who are actually full or busted. They look at a Sydney Sweeney and think, oh, well, I can wear what she wears. And then when they realize that they can't fit into the things that she's wearing because she's not actually full busted, she doesn't actually have a large chest. She's a very average size chest, so she can wear average size clothes. They start to feel like there's something wrong with them. Like, oh, well, if she's large chested, but I'm bigger than she is and I can't wear the things that she's wearing, I must be gigantic. Enter the GLP-1s. Now Big Pharma is making money off of you. There you go. So I really do believe that, well, I mean, the Sydney Sweeney thing is probably propaganda for a lot of things. I think that the medical community and Big Pharma have a huge hand in this. They make this woman who is making her chest her entire personality, which is making women who are smaller feel bad about the fact that they're smaller. So they're gonna run to get the breast implants, but they're gonna paint this woman, Sydney Sweeney, as being so large chested when she's really just average size. So it makes women who are actually large chested feel really self-conscious about it. So they're either gonna get reductions, which again feeds into the medical community, or they're just gonna get on GLP-1s to try to lose weight so that they can get smaller. It's all propaganda. And again, that's why I have to keep emphasizing this, because again, there's nothing wrong with being average sized. There's nothing wrong with being smaller, there's nothing wrong with being bigger. Whatever your chest size is your chest size. But I want to keep emphasizing this because I want women to understand that calling Sydney Sweeney large chested is not healthy for us as a society. It's not healthy for women. It's not helping women at all. Again, I know people don't want to hear this. Sydney Sweeney is average size. She has an average sized chest. It is not significant. It is not big. Sometimes she plays it up, but sometimes she plays it down. If she actually had a large chest, she wouldn't be able to play it down. It would just be there. If she actually had grown up with a large chest, she would not want to make it her entire personality. Trust me. As someone who spent years, like years, I was a stand-up comic for years, and the way I had to wear like jackets in the height of summer, because if anybody saw my boobs on stage, that would literally become the entire conversation, and I would have hecklers screaming things out at me. I would get, you know, and comics couldn't look me in the eye. Like, I mean, if you actually have a large chest and grow up with a large chest, you don't want to make it your entire personality when you grow up. You don't. You want people to see you as more. So this whole story about Sydney Sweeney and like, I was always so big, I was bigger than her now in elementary school, and I was not like a giant kid, okay? I wasn't like a morbidly obese kid. I've just always had these. Apparently Sydney Sweeney had some conversation where she said that she had a really hard time buying bras when she was younger. She's average size. Maybe she got big young, I don't know, but I really do think she either took that story because she knew that that's what women that actually have large chests, when hers is average, deal with, and she either stole that story from those of us that actually had to go through that struggle, or if she really did experience that, it is an indication that even women who are average size, because she is an average size chested woman, have to deal with that struggle, and that this is a more universal issue of bra sizing. And the fact that she's making it because she was so big when she wasn't, she's not big now. Like, she's not that big. She's an average sized chested woman. And I think, again, she's either stealing the story because she wants to feed it into her narrative, or if she really did have that struggle, it's a sign that the entire bra industry needs to do some work on their sizing, because all women universally are having that struggle. Look, there are women who have a larger chest size because they gain weight, and that does happen. But I take this stuff really personally when we talk about chest size and things, because as someone, look, I went through a few phases in my life where I have starved myself to about as low a weight as I could safely go for somebody my height. I have gotten myself down to a pant size, like, I mean, I've owned a skirt that was a 0 that I fit into very well, but I think that that was like a sizing thing. I'd say probably like I've gotten myself to like a pant size like 4, and I still have to wear like a size like 10, 12 jacket because of my chest size. Because even when I starve myself to the point where like my hip bones are like sticking out of my body, these are still there. So this idea that like someone like a Sydney Sweeney is so large chested and that she's so big and that she's so full busted, she's not. Like, it's not that extreme. Like, if you actually look at like video of her, the fact that in some of her movies, she doesn't even look like she has a big chest at all. She plays it up on the red carpet, like they're making her chest size her personality, and they're trying to build it up like it's bigger than it is. I think they're trying to build her up like she's bigger than she is. Again, I think it's propaganda. I think it's meant to, if you make her look so big and she's so busty, then any girl that's bigger than her now feels self-conscious about her body, feels like she has to lose weight, even though for a lot of us, we could lose as much weight as we could possibly lose, and they're still there, and they're still a hell of a lot bigger than hers. Again, this isn't a competition. It just gets under my skin that somebody who is average size gets presented as the poster child for large chests. And one of the things about Sydney Sweeney's lingerie brand, it says on the website that she has 44 sizes. I didn't actually do the math to figure that out, but it says it's ranging from a 30B to a 42 triple D. Some of the bras on the website look like they were listed as having like bigger cup sizes and things like that, but they were all waitlisted, so everything was waitlisted, which is probably a marketing ploy. I'm wondering if this even was intended to be sold anyway, or if it's just trying to get people on the wait list and they might make the products. That's like a really popular trending thing, like Meghan Markle was doing it with her brand. I think Kim does that with Skims with a lot of products that they just have as like a promotional thing. So I'm wondering like how legit this lingerie brand actually even is. But the idea that they're trying to sell it like, oh, it's a 44 size range, when it's just like, if she was full busted, like, I mean, if she's wearing the bras, which people keep saying she's wearing the wrong size bra, I think it's just because in a lot of images she's stuffed so they're pushing her up, which is why her bras look like they're the wrong size. But like in the promos for her bras, which I'm assuming are her bras that are ones that they make in the size range that they're in, they look like they fit her, which means she's not that big. She's average size. Now, again, I don't expect a lingerie brand to carry an excessively large size. I don't expect all lingerie brands to carry my size. I wish there were more brands like there used to be that carried a bigger size range, but I think when the body positivity movement took a downturn and with COVID and things like that, I think a lot of brands shut down, unfortunately. I'll even leave some brands that I recommend for people who actually have fuller busts, like in the description box, so you guys can check out some. I would much rather see people purchasing from like legitimate companies that are making full busted sizes than this cash grab that is Sydney Sweeney's lingerie line. Again, I don't even have a problem with the fact that Sydney Sweeney would release a lingerie line that didn't truly have full busted size ranges, except for the fact that she's promoted as being like the poster child for like having a large chest, and she's not even selling bras that actually are for girls that have a large chest. Like, she's selling for girls that are average size, and there's nothing wrong with being average size, and there's nothing wrong with selling bras for people that are average size, because you're probably gonna make more money that way. I'm not hating on any of that. I just don't like the way it's being marketed as if she's like so big and so busty, and then it's like, oh, but her bra range is literally just average size bras. I also want to point out one of my issues, and this is not just a Sydney Sweeney thing, this is any other brand, Victoria's Secret, whatever, is on my original TikTok account, which ended up getting taken down and whatever. My first violation that I ever got on my original TikTok account was for making a post where I was talking about my bra, and I was fully clothed, not showing anything, and I held up my bra to show that it could cover my whole head. And that was removed for community guidelines. Meanwhile, Sydney Sweeney gonna have her boobs all hanging out, what little she has, because it's little. She ain't wearing this bra range, okay? She's not wearing this size bra. Not happening. This is so gonna get taken down because I did that, but whatever. She's not wearing an actual full busted bra. She's wearing an average size bra, and she can wear them all over the internet, hanging out. Why? Because she's backed by a big corporation that's funded by a man. Whereas me holding up my bra to be like, this is what an actual full busted bra looks like. Now, that's probably gonna get flagged for something. There is also the conversation, I've seen a lot of people talk about this, but I do think it's worth repeating, is that women are the ones that are buying lingerie now. It used to be that lingerie companies would cater to men. That was kind of the original Victoria's Secret brand, was that they were kind of catering to men to buy lingerie for women, which was really for them. Like, that was kind of the model. It's an old school model, in fact, actually, and not to bring politics into this, but I remember reading, I think it was in Ivanka Trump's book, The Trump Card, where she was talking about branding. It's a really great business book. I know she's a controversial figure, but I do think it's a really good book if you can get your hands on it for like women in business and stuff. And Ivanka was talking about going jewelry shopping with her mom, Ivana, and of course, being a Trump, she, you know, got primo service, but that a lot of these jewelry stores were very kind of like cold and clinical because the jewelry stores were catered to men who were buying the jewelry for women. The men didn't want to think that they were paying extra for ambiance and for image. They wanted the things to be very clinical so that men thought that they were just paying for the jewelry. So they wouldn't think of it as being overpriced for like all the bells and whistles of like the environment. Because that's how a lot of men think, they want to just pay for the product, whereas for a lot of women, they want the experience. And lingerie companies used to be very similar, right? It was like, it was targeted to men because men would be buying the lingerie for the women, which would then be wearing it for the men. And in reality, that was shifting. I think Victoria's Secret was shifting with that a little bit. It took them a while to really fully get into that, but I think that's why Rihanna's Fenty really took over, because that was really marketed to women. It was marketed to, which again, another person that Rihanna's sexy, men find her sexy, but women love her too. Again, it's possible to do both. Sydney Sweeney isn't pulling off doing both. Whereas Sydney Sweeney is very much a male-oriented celebrity, and now she's selling this lingerie brand, and she's going by an old model, most women are not going to want the lingerie. It's interesting because I actually saw her some kind of tagline where she was saying that her lingerie line is about the art of the tease or something, and I was like, okay, so she's just like stealing from Dita Von Teese now. Like, I mean, this is, I don't know. I mean, I feel like this whole thing has to be propaganda for something because it's so poorly done. And again, I don't hate on a lingerie brand. I don't even hate on a lingerie brand that isn't catering to all the different size ranges or whatever. She wants to do a limited size range to test it out, whatever. Like, I don't even hate on that. It's just, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's not a good marketing tool. And a lot of people are saying that this is going to be for like Valentine's Day, but I don't know. Again, most of the stuff on the website is sold out, and you have to go on a wait list for it, which I don't think it's because it sold out that quickly. I'm sure that that's a marketing thing where they just didn't have very many in stock and they wanted to get a gauge of how many people were going to order them. But I don't know. I feel like at this point, like, they would have had to have launched this a lot sooner for this to be like a Valentine's Day marketing plan, you know, to get guys to buy this for women for Valentine's Day. And nowadays with like lingerie and how lingerie sizing works and things like that, most guys aren't going to have any idea what size to get a woman for lingerie or anything like that. So I don't necessarily see this as making a lot of sense, because I don't even think that men are really going to be buying this lingerie for women, because I just don't think men do that anymore. I just think it's a very old model of thinking. The idea that Sydney Sweeney, who is a male-oriented celebrity, like, she's designed for the male gaze and is not really in tune with women. She's starting a company that women would be shopping at. And I feel like, I mean, frankly, again, I'm gonna leave some names and descriptions of some lingerie brands that I do recommend, that I do feel like are for women, that are oriented for women and stuff like that. So I wish I could list more, because there used to be a lot more that I could recommend, but unfortunately a lot of them ended up shutting down. I'm not saying I hope her brand fails, but like, I would rather promote other brands that I do think are worth promoting, and ones that I would actually shop at. I will make a little note about men and buying gifts for, I mean, any occasion but Valentine's Day or something. I mean, in case there are any men that happen to watch this video. Don't buy your girlfriend Sydney Sweeney lingerie unless she has specifically shown an interest in it. There are some gifts that you can buy a girl that are kind of universal, right? Like, I mean, most women are gonna like. When it comes to things that are very niche, you can buy them for her, but you have to make sure she's shown an interest. Like, I remember there was some drama at Christmas time several years ago about like Peloton, and the idea of like, there was some commercial about like a husband that bought his wife a Peloton and whatever, and it got so much backlash because people are like, oh my god, she's a thin woman, and is he implying that she needs to lose weight and she needs to work out and she needs to blah blah blah. I remember thinking to myself, like, Pelotons are expensive. So, I mean, that's a pretty significant gift to give someone. If you're with someone who has specified that they wanted a Peloton, buying them a Peloton as a gift can be a great gift. I mean, you know, if that's something that they've actively shown an interest in. If they haven't shown any interest in wanting it and you just go buy them a Peloton, again, it could be implied that you want them to lose weight or something like that or whatever. Like, that's a big investment to give someone if they haven't shown an interest in it. And I think something like any lingerie brand, but I think like a Sydney Sweeney lingerie brand is something that maybe your girlfriend or wife or whoever is like the one woman that actually likes Sydney Sweeney and likes the lingerie brand and has shown an interest in trying it. If you happen to know her size range and you want to get it for her because you know that she's shown an interest in it, fine. If she's never shown an interest in it, if she actively doesn't like Sydney Sweeney, or if you even don't know her feelings about Sydney Sweeney, I would err on the side of caution and not get it for her. I think that's a general rule. I mean, there's obviously things like, you know, flowers and things like that that are kind of universal that you can get a woman, and, you know, especially if you don't, like, maybe it's a new relationship, you don't know her interest that much or something like that. But at the end of the day, like, guys, buying a gift for a woman is not really as tricky as you think. It's just a matter of kind of paying attention. What has she shown an interest in? You know, I mean, I see it a lot, and this is kind of a common theme where I see women that work in jewelry stores that will talk about, like, a guy will come in to buy a gift for their wife or girlfriend or something like that, and like the salesperson will be like, well, does she usually wear like gold or silver jewelry? And he'll have no idea. And it's like, dude, just pay attention. Like, it's just, I mean, it's literally just open your eyes. Like, it's not that tricky. And I do think as a woman, like, if you've, especially if you've actively shown an interest in disliking Sydney Sweeney and your guy buys you Sydney Sweeney lingerie, that's a red flag right there. I can't help but think that the Sydney Sweeney thing has got to be just some, it's propaganda, you know, and or just a marketing ploy or something like that, because there's too much about it that just doesn't make sense. Personally, I don't like the name, but I mean, you know, I don't really care what the name is, but I don't think Syrn's a bad name, but I don't like the spelling of it. The size range, I'm not even mad at the size range that they marketed it to an average size woman, but they're trying to sell us that she is this full busted woman when she's clearly not. She's average size. They're just playing it up like she's bigger than she is. But then they're creating this line that's just for average size women, which they're gonna make more money doing it that way. I mean, I understand why they're doing it, but like, don't sell us that she's the full busted queen and then not sell full busted sizes. Like, the marketing on this is just really not good. And again, if they were gonna try to push this as a Valentine's Day thing, the timing of it seems weird. Like, I feel like it would need to have happened sooner and not have the whole wait list thing going on, like that kind of a marketing thing. I don't know, I just find that they're trying to do this like a legitimate lingerie line. I think they're kind of dropping the ball a little bit. And before anybody comes for me with like the jealousy thing, or you're just don't like Sydney Sweeney because you're jealous, I have better hair and bigger boobs. So I mean, I don't really see why the jealousy conversation is even in this. But yeah, at the end of the day, as somebody who actually has a large chest, and that's at any size, I could lose, I mean, I've been like 40 pounds skinnier than I am now, and they're still this big. At the end of the day, I get called fat all the time because my boobs are big. If I try to cover them up more, I get called fat. If I have them out too much, they're considered offensive. I mean, go to my Erica Kirk video, like my original one, where I thought I was downplaying the cleavage a little bit, but I probably had about as much cleavage as I have on right now. Oh my God, the way that the Christian community came for me, I mean, you would have thought I was topless. It was unbelievable. So again, I get that criticism for wearing a regular, ordinary top, okay? Sydney Sweeney is walking around in lingerie all the time to promote her brand. Where's that outrage? Where's that? People are not outraged by her chest. Like, if she actually was full busted, like she actually had big boobs, people would be outraged about her chest. They would. And I'm not saying they should be, but at the end of the day, people find women's chests a lot more accommodating if they are packaged in a way that is making men money, but not if it's just a woman showing up herself in her own expression. Like, these are mine. I got these from God and my grandma. So, you know, that it just is what it is. Whether or not Sydney Sweeney's are real, there's a debate about that. I chose to not get into that conversation in this. I mentioned that in my previous video about Sydney Sweeney. I don't think they are, because I don't think anybody's in Hollywood are actually just real. But, you know, whatever. She claims they're real, whatever. That's beside the point, but they're average size. And again, I know it's gonna be triggering for a lot of people. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the size of anybody's chest, and we need to get that out of our heads, that like there's a size that's right and a size that's wrong. But like, are you gonna throw out the jealousy conversation? Like, again, the Sydney Sweeney conversation has really opened my eyes to a new appreciation for these women who are like 6 feet tall, that are saying that they're tired of women who are like 5'8", 5'9", complaining about all the problems of being so tall, when these women who are like 6 feet are like, you think you have problems? What about me? The Sydney Sweeney like full busted conversation absolutely has me identifying with them. She has a very average chest size. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but again, it's an average chest size. For those of us that actually have a full busted size, and that we can't just downplay them because it's convenient for us to downplay them. We get the fat accusations no matter how skinny we get, because these make every outfit make us look bigger than we actually are. We actually have the back pain, the shoulder dents, the chiropractic bills. We have to special order bras, and we have to pay an arm and a leg, not just for the bras, but for shipping and all this kind of stuff. We actually have to deal with the consequences. Sydney Sweeney is average size, can buy a bra anywhere, does not have to deal with any of those consequences, and she gets labeled as being like the queen of the full busted women. But you know, I gotta say, I don't really like her making a whole lot of money and selling herself as the poster child for something that I've been my whole life, when she's not even that. Like, she's average sized. And again, like I mentioned before, there's so many issues with what calling her bigger busted does to the actual bigger busted community, and you know, how I think that that's manipulation and this and that. I mean, I just really despise the way we are using women's bodies and women's sexuality, because that's a part of it with the lingerie brand, and we're using that as marketing ploys for all of these powerful men. And I want women to take back our sexuality. I want we to own our bodies, whether you're completely flat-chested or whether you're You have the world record size for the biggest boobs. I want women to take back ownership of our bodies, of our bodies. I'm not talking about the fake stuff like the Kardashians, but our bodies. Own it and stop saying that one thing is right and one thing is wrong, and you know, that we'll feel sexy when our body looks like this, or you know, we feel sexy when men tell us we're sexy or something like that. Like, that could be a whole other conversation in itself. Yeah. The Sydney Sweeney lingerie line, well, I don't think it's really gonna last, and I think it's kind of a joke and probably just propaganda and promotion for something or whatever. It got under my skin for a lot of different reasons. And again, I kind of hope she's a celebrity that goes away, because she's not really setting her career up for longevity, but you know, who knows. But yeah, these were just my thoughts on the Sydney Sweeney lingerie line. I'm sure I said some things that triggered people. And again, I'm not saying any of this stuff to body shame her or body shame anyone. I'm saying this stuff because I do think that the way she's being packaged and promoted is harmful to women, and is also pointing out some areas in society that are harmful to women. And look, I think there's a lot of powerful men that are running the show here, but I think it's also important for women to understand, if you're gonna be literally the face and the body of a brand, and you're gonna keep selling that like you're in charge and you're in control and you're smarter than everybody thinks you are, that pushback is going to come to you. And I think as women, we need to understand that about just the way that society and business works. I had a lot I had to get off my chest, literally, and there's a lot on here already. So yeah, these are my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please keep them respectful. You can disagree with me if you want, that's fine. Just please keep your comments respectful. Any other video requests or anything, let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a big thumbs up, and be sure you subscribe to my channel. Honestly, any engagement on this channel really does help to boost it in the algorithm so more people can get this message, and I really do think these messages are important to get out there. So yeah, if you would like to heal from your pick-me energy, which Sydney Sweeney has in droves, I highly recommend you check out my guided journals, Recovering Pick-Me Girl Guided Journal and the Dark Feminine Energy Guided Journal. They will also help you to connect to your own authentic sexuality and your own authentic self-expression, which I think is so important for women. They're both available on Amazon. Details in the description box below, along with links to all my social media accounts. And I'm also going to link some lingerie brands that I recommend for you, especially if you're full or busted, that I would recommend that you support over the Sydney Sweeney brand. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.